Yo, what's up? What's going on? What's good, everybody? The Boston Source here checking in. This is it's kind of like a late version of the Boston Source podcast. Yes, it is 10:30 p.m. Eastern time here for February 9th, 2025. You know what I'm saying? And we got to check in here for this particular episode of the Boston Source podcast. Shout out to those listening live, including one of our previous guests on here that's on the live chat. That's right, it is Brooklyn Barwick. Here, of course, she has a pro debut coming up on March 1st. So y'all tune in for that. She says, "Go Birds," as they did win the Super Bowl here with their victory over the Kansas City Chiefs. Jesus M in the building. He asked if Greg Hackett versus Brian Norman Sr. would be Brian Norman Sr. still on. As far as I'm concerned, I would have to check with Mr. GHB himself, Greg Hackett. That would kind of like I guess give me more information in reference to that. As far as I know, they still have things going on, but I haven't seen anything, at least from Greg Hackett's side there. So I'll probably check around, and of course I know a couple people from the Philadelphia area that would give me additional information if it wasn't coming from Greg Hackett there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Brian Norman Sr. So if anything, I would probably know from them, or actually I would have at least gotten some type of email. You know what I mean? Because I did get some information from one of the PR people, for the thing for Brian Norman Sr. Some time back. So I will have to see if Ed would be able to reach out or send an email in reference to any updates on any details on that for next or this coming Saturday, right? So there it is, and yeah, much love to Brooklyn Barwick. Like I said, in preparation for her fight coming up March 1st over in Mexico. There it should be not that far south from El Paso, Texas, or something like that. So yeah, she's getting prepared for that here for her pro debut on March 1st. They're coming up. So there's that. We have a couple of topics here in store for this particular podcast. As you had the bout that took place, the last dance, Derek Chisora versus Otto Wallin. And yes, I did have a preview of this particular bout. I gave kind of like the keys to the fight, and I prefaced it by saying, you had Derek Chisora's previous bout against Joe Joyce, where Joe Joyce had the dimensions of a guy that should have been able to give Derek Chisora problems. But if he didn't have something to, kind of like get the respect of Derek Chisora, then Derek Chisora was going to do what he does. And that's what ended up happening there in that bout against Joe Joyce last year. And well, here we are in the same predicament with Derek Chisora and Otto Wallin. And Otto Wallin just couldn't really keep, Derek Chisora off of him. I said, you got to have a power hand that would get the respect of Derek Chisora. And, going into the bout, when you got Derek Chisora weighing in at around 20 pounds heavier than Otto Wallin, and you see what he is, he's there at 6'1 and a half. 6'1 and a half at 259, weighing in at 259. So he probably was like 265 going into that bout at the very least, man. So he's, like I said, he's shorter than I am and just, much stockier in there. And I mean, I've seen him out there in the UK, when I was out there in September for that Riyadh season event there. And yeah, he's short, but yeah, he's like, every bit as big. I know a lot of people, around here say I'm a big dude, but I'll put it this way, like, you got Derek Chisora, who's shorter than I am, pretty much, but bigger. Like he's bigger. I'm telling you that right now, right? So the key part of it was for Otto Wallin. I just felt like he should have been able to have the ability to keep Derek Chisora at bay and try to, make make it respect. There, yeah, Berkeley is, yeah, you're a big dude, but it's okay, it's small. Yeah, I mean, it's something where a guy that's 6'3" in comparison to a young lady there that's around what 5'3" or something like that. So of course it would be like a giant, you know what I mean, in that particular sense. So, but in this instance, you got like I said, even there with Otto Wallin. Otto Wallin's taller than me, listed at 6'5", and has that reach of what I said around like 79. So I would have thought that Otto Wallin or would have been able to keep his lead hand, his right hand, there at bay, and then try to tag Derek Chisora. But you seen there early in that bout, just real early in that bout, 4'11". Oh my goodness, 4'11". Oh man. You seen there early in that bout that Derek Chisora didn't respect any of them jabs coming in, any of them left hands being thrown by Otto Wallin. So he just went in there and he was just woof, 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 right? And you just seen early that was just his plan to wear down Otto Wallin, get in close, get in, the clutch and, throw punches and close and, wear him down and, have his, energy real low in the tail end of the bout. And that's what pretty much was happening. You couldn't have Otto Wallin be very successful in utilizing his reach and his distance. And it was just a story of, Derek Chisora doing Derek Chisora things. This is what, as I mentioned, this is what he did against Joe Joyce. This is how he pretty much like handle business against Gerald Washington. You could probably say there against Kubrat Pulev, it was like the similar type of fight. You get in there, it's up close, you're gonna get roughed up. It's gonna be a rough fight. He's gonna get roughed up in the process, but it doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's like he said in the face-off or the whole thing with them on the table. Hey, we're going in here. We're going to fight. We are going to fight. And that is exactly what Derek Chisora was doing in that bout there the other day, man, over in Manchester against Otto Wallin. And, it was just something there where it was a battle of attrition for Otto Wallin. And it was something to me because you had Derek Chisora that was, cut, on his right eye, due to a head clash because of his style, right? You know what I mean? So, with that being said, you kind of like would have thought that Otto Wallin would kind of take advantage of that, just give a little pop here and there, pop, pop, pop. Like I said, right to the eye. Just keep, just keep doing it. Just try to move, boom, boom, and even if you got Chisora trying to do the high guard or move around and try to lunge with his punches, at least try to make a pay when doing that. And you didn't necessarily see that there from Otto Wallin, man. So I'm like, come on, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? So that is how Derek Chisora was, kind of like, gaining or building up rounds. Was he was fighting his fight in comparison to, maybe a, Otto Wallin. Excuse me. So with that being said, shoot, hold on. Yeah, my bad on that one. So I was thinking that Otto Wallin, given what he was saying here, right when they were pretty much announcing the fight, that he got the opportunity, that he would be able to take advantage of something like this. But I guess after his fight against Anthony Joshua, he had one fight outside of that. Some people know about the yeah, that's true. It got me there. Now the one fight that Otto Wallin had, was what, against some guy named Ono Ryode. I've never been able to get this right. Honorable Iraime, right? And that was, outside of the fight there against Anthony Joshua. And, for some folks, they, kind of known about the whole thing with Otto Wallin and his, whole ordeal with, promotional company, not soon, after the Joshua fight, right? So he's only put in position to have one fight since, and it was something that where it was like, okay, I get a fight in, I'm able to get in the ring, I'm able to get in the gym and that type of stuff. So and then here in this particular situation, like the backstory was said that it was supposed to be Derek Chisora versus Jarrell Miller, and well, you see the whole thing with that, right? You know what I mean? Shout out to Jake Pylon in the building here on the live chat. Salute to you. Says Chisora is on the move up, big things now. Well, I mean, I'll get to that here in a little bit because we had his plans for what he was going to do. Of course, this particular event was billed as the last dance, as it was planned to be the last bout that Derek Chisora would have in the UK. But of course, given this performance, given him being able to get the unanimous decision win and knock down Otto Wallin twice in this occasion, even though like the first one is probably one of the funniest knockdowns you might see here in the sport of boxing, because it's like Chisora just threw a punch and it just like went woof and like barely hit. It barely hit Otto Wallin. I'm like, y'all seen it. Yeah, whatever you watch it live, see the replay highlights, y'all seen it. It barely looked like it hit Otto Wallin, and then he stumbled back, and then he just went off like he was in a car, like he had like one of these things, like he was in a car, something like that, and he just fell to the canvas. I was like, oh my goodness, man, that was hilarious. That was hilarious right there. And with that being said, you still had it to the point where Chisora was trying to, overwhelm Otto Wallin there at that, the tail end of the ninth round. Couldn't necessarily get that done. But then it was just more of a Derek Chisora type of fight. Rough and tough, rugged, raw. You gotta, be able to get around and all that type of stuff. I know some people, back in the day, when they had it in the welterweight division, you had Showtime Sean Porter that used to be kind of like that type of fighter, but he was much more polished than Derek Chisora. Come on, yeah, much more polished than Derek Chisora for me, of course. As I was a fan of Sean Porter when he was there fighting, but you kind of seen, here with Chisora, that is how he fights. And that was like his 49th professional fight there up to that point. And thing about it is like, Otto Wallin, I don't know if it was, him or his team. I talked about the thing there with Joey Camash being there as his trainer. I just felt like he couldn't really keep Chisora off of him. I said, as long as you're able to get his respect or be able to move properly, then you'll be able to have better or a good night against him. But if you don't have that power behind your punch, you don't have that pop, whether it's your jab or whatever, then he's gonna keep doing what he does. That's the way he wins. He doesn't have any other style, no other style but to go right at you, throw hooks, throw body punches if he can once he's close, or just try to get up and have the opportunity to wheel around with those hooks to see if you have your guard down, if your game in on point. And that's pretty much what happened. And so there in the 12th round, it looked like he was well ahead on the cards up to that particular point, and he still was able to get another knockdown by wearing down Otto Wallin in the 12th round. And so that is how he got this unanimous decision win with scores of 117, 109, 116, 110, and 114, 112. So looked like he had 6 rounds to 6. You had 8 rounds to 4 and 9 rounds to 3, including those two knockdowns, right? So it wasn't even really that much of a close fight there, And my thing it's like I said, with you having a thing there with a head clash and him having a serious cut, because that cut was serious above his wide eye, and Otto Wallin just couldn't take advantage of it. He just couldn't take advantage of it. It was almost similar to what happened last weekend, where you had David Benavidez with a cut above his eye, and David Morrell Jr. couldn't take advantage of that and try to work on that eye. So here in this sense, you've seen Derek Chisora pretty much respond and get himself a win here. And that was a really, really it was really interesting because, like I was mentioning, with this being billed as the last dance for Derek Chisora, now it kind of like throws things a little bit, right? Because Derek Chisora didn't look like he was really intending to kind of like compete for a world title or get himself around a position to be around there for a big fight. Now here he is, and he beat someone in Otto Wallin who was kind of like ranked number 10 in WBC. He got he's there at number 12 in the IBF, or around number 11 in the WBO. And Derek Chisora was like ranked number 14 in the WBO going into this fight. So now it's like, okay, you got him floating around like number 10 or something. So I mean, yeah, he could probably get one more fight in, but now it's like, okay, him being under Frank Warren, him, like I said, Frank Warren, Queensberry Promotions, that type of thing, that, okay, maybe he be, put in position for maybe an interesting fight, right? He's had those multiple bouts against Tyson Fury, the latest one being for the WBC heavyweight title in 2022. He's gone up against Joseph Parker 2 consecutive times. He had the fight against Alexander Usyk, the 2 fights against Dylan White, right? And so, after the bout, he did, bring up that, there were a few fighters that maybe could be suggested that he could face next. Okay. Two fighters, I guess, have been, around there in the, the UK. And then one fighter is, the top fighter in the heavyweight division. So he brought up Usyk as a potential rematch, right? He brought up Anthony Joshua, and he brought up Daniel Dubois. Okay. Usyk, that ain't necessarily going to happen because, reports are that Alexander Usyk is, planning to just return to the ring here in 2025 for one fight in 2025. And it's likely going to be for, once again, the undisputed championship there, given what could happen on February 22nd. So you have Usyk, that's pretty much out of the way. Daniel Dubois, the crowd out there in Manchester wasn't really too, welcoming of that potential fight. And if Daniel Dubois defeats Joseph Parker on February 22nd, he could be put in position to have the rematch against Alexander Usyk later on in 2025. So then that leaves Anthony Joshua. Now, Joshua, even though at this particular point, that might be a good fight for Anthony Joshua to take, and it still might actually, it would probably be the most lucrative fight or the most lucrative option for Derek Chisora. In the post-fight presser, they were talking about, well, maybe you could have Anthony Joshua, on his way to going ahead and face Tyson Fury here in 2025. So I don't know, man. If those are the 3 options, then you might not be able to go ahead and face any one of those guys. So, with that being said, there's another fighter that was in attendance for this bout between Derek Chisora and Otto Wallin. That could still be an interesting bout there in the UK. And that is a third fight with Dylan White. Yep. Still, domestic rivalry. Yeah, you did have that, crazy knockout that Dylan White scored over Derek Chisora. But I mean, still, if the locals there in the UK are still, interested in that particular fight, then they might as well go ahead and have that as probably the best option. At least I would say for both fighters, because in Dylan White's case, I'm like, who in the world is Dylan White fighting? You know what I mean? I have no idea who in the world Dylan White would be fighting here in this particular instance. And so, with that being said, I think that would be the more interesting move there for Derek Chisora. And I think that Frank Warren should go ahead and, have that as, the option there in this particular juncture. You know what I mean? So I say that should be it. That should be the option for Derek Chisora there at this particular juncture. Now for Otto Wallin, man, I don't know. I don't know about for Otto Wallin, man. Like for him, man, that particular performance, that was just not good. That was not good at all. There for Otto Wallin, right? Because that was something where I would have thought that Otto Wallin, if he was at a good part of his career, or a good spot of his career, that he should have been able to outpoint and outbox Derek Chisora for a wide decision win, and it ended up being the complete opposite. And so he probably drops out of a lot of those rankings that he was on, the WBO, the IBF, all that type of stuff. He probably drops out of the top 15 in those rankings. As I mentioned there, he was at number 11 in the WBO, number 12 in the IBF, number 10 in the WBC, and he likely drops out of all of those particular rankings once those new ones come out. There for those particular sanctioning bodies. So with that being said, that's the thing about it. You know what I mean? He says Dylan White has to get past Joyce. Aren't they about to meet up in March possibly? I have to go ahead and verify that, because I hadn't seen much news about that. I know they had a clash there during that particular drink there for that event. So we'll see. I mean, they have like some reports that it's rumored for maybe like April or something. But I hadn't necessarily followed up on that. And my thing is that I don't know if that would be something good in that particular point. But Joe Joyce, though, after having those two bouts against Zhilei Zhang and the fight against Derek Chisora, man, like him at this point fighting the Dylan White, I don't know how he's gonna get through all of that. You know what I mean? So we'll have to see if there's going to be any updates as far as like that particular bout, if that does take place here, either within the next couple months, or I've seen something here that's come up that says maybe it's going to happen in the summer months, maybe around June or July. So, I'll keep my eye on that there for, like Dylan White, if he and Joe Joyce are actually going to, have a fight. But, like I said, back with Otto Wallin, bad loss, very bad loss. And, given the situation that, we had there from last year, with Salida Promotions, now where does he go? Where does he go? What options does he have here now in the heavyweight division? Particularly now, since this has basically stopped his momentum to try to climb himself up in the heavyweight ranks. That's going to be something there to really be desired on his front if he tries to get himself up back into the heavyweight division around that top 25 or something like that. Like he would have to have some type of fight where he could do that. But outside of that, I really don't see any other path that that Otto Wallin has. So with that being said, I'll probably try to reach out next week or something like that when it comes to Otto Wallin to see how he feels about what he can do here after this particular bout. But we'll see how that goes. But real quick, I wanted to see if I could queue up something here, but want to see if I could open the phone lines here in a second. But also wanted to do something here real quick. So just give me a few seconds, and we'll be back here on the Boxing Source podcast. Hold on just a moment. All right, y'all. We are back here with the Boxing Source podcast here for February 9th, 2025. Yes, this is, soon after the Super Bowl that took place in New Orleans, Louisiana. Yeah, the Philadelphia Eagles did defeat the Kansas City Chiefs there. And my goodness, man. The Chiefs didn't have any answer for that defensive line. No answers whatsoever. So, hey, obviously the Eagles on that part. But we do have a couple of events coming up here for this coming weekend. As I mentioned in the description, February 14th in New York City, you're going to have the WBO lightweight title on the line. As you're going to have Dennis Berinchyk defending that title against Keyshawn Davis, the businessman Keyshawn Davis. And, this is something there where, a number of folks are leaning towards Keyshawn Davis to get the win. I want to see here if I could get the odds there real quick. If I could find those odds, as you have Keyshawn Davis coming in there with a record of 12-0 with 8 wins by way of knockout. Dennis Berinchyk is 19-0 with 9 of those wins by way of knockout. Both of these fighters do have amateur backgrounds there. You got, of course, Keyshawn Davis being a silver medalist there. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that also that Berinchyk is a silver medalist there from 2012 too. So that is, what we have here in store. Of course, with Keyshawn Davis, he, had a great 2024, with wins over Miguel Madueño, Gustavo Lemos there, and also Jose Pedraza there that set him up for this particular opportunity to fight for the WBO lightweight title. Now, I think here on the odds, it's looking like it got Keyshawn Davis as a favorite at -600. Currently here on DraftKings with Dennis Berinchyk at +425. So it looks like, this is something where it might be that's kind of pretty wide odds. But if you look at some of the other fights that they have on the schedule, a number of these fights are, I'll just say, they shouldn't even be on the books. They're for February 14th. I'm gonna tell you that there. But it is a top-ranked card. You're gonna have a number of these fighters that are, been top-ranked prospects or whatever it is that are gonna be featured in this fight card. But that one with Dennis Berinchyk defending the title for the first time after having the win that he had there over Emmanuel Navarrete, right? So in that particular fight, oh my God, Yeah, that fight was a struggle to get through. Navarrete, even with this, activity and things like that, he still had issues trying to catch up to Dennis Berinchyk, and Dennis Berinchyk still ended up getting a split decision win there to win at the time the vacant WBO title there, 135 pounds. And well, now this is his first defense going up against Keyshawn Davis at the theater at Madison Square Garden. And yeah, a number of folks are, putting a lot towards Keyshawn Davis now as being the guy. And yes, we had a conversation there with Keyshawn Davis, as they had the media workout, about 10 days or so ago over in Las Vegas. If you follow Keyshawn Davis's YouTube channel, you'll be able to see in one of those episodes, you'll be able to see in the workout that I'm, floating around there and that type of stuff. But do have, couple, interview with Keyshawn Davis and your conversation with Keyshawn Davis there, while they had that workout. And yeah, he is, really hyped, really psyched. Definitely looking forward to this upcoming bout that's going to be at the theater at Madison Square Garden on Friday, February 14th. Yes, you're going to have the press conference on Wednesday, the weigh-in on Thursday, and then the fights on Friday. And yes, the boxing source will be in attendance there for that particular fight card, as we have a number of, like I said, a number of folks featured in that one, not just with the thing with Dennis Berinchyk and Keyshawn Davis. You're going to have Xander Zayas versus Slava Spomer, Rohan Polanco versus Jean Carlos Torres, Jared Anderson versus Marios Calais, Vito Milnicki Jr. versus Connor Coyle. That's going to be a pretty interesting bout there in the middleweight division as well. And you're going to have Abdullah Mason in there against Manuel James, Tiger Johnson against Keyshawn Toller, Nico Ali Walsh, who's actually going to be, they say is going to be the first fight on the card, but we'll see there for sure, against Juan Carlos Guerrera. And you're going to have Keon Davis in his second pro fight there against Ira Johnson. And Juanma Lopez de Jesus will have his pro debut against Brian Santiago. So that is the full fight card. What I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 fights on that card. And they said what it was, that the doors will be open around 5 o'clock or something. So you're pretty much going to have the first fights at around 5:30 p.m. Eastern time there. That's going to be on ESPN Plus, right? So yeah, first fight live on ESPN Plus is at 5 o'clock Eastern time, and then they're going to be live on ESPN at 9 p.m. Eastern time, right? So we got the Keyshawn Davis, Dennis Berinchyk main event, Xander Zayas versus Slava Spomer as the co-main event there for that particular fight card. I think those two are the only two that will be on ESPN, but I'm going to, let me see if I could go ahead and confirm that, for that schedule, because I ain't got the about sheet yet. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got the about sheet quite yet, but I just named, all of the fights that will be listed on there, right? But we'll see how this goes. Let me see here if I could find this joint here. Yeah, it's going to be a triple header. Yeah, so you're going to see the WBO lightweight title with Dennis Berinchyk defending against Keyshawn Davis. You're going to have that co-feature bout, Xander Zayas going up against Slava Spomer, and you're going to have Vito Milnicki Jr. versus Connor Coyle. Those 3 fights will be on ESPN at 9 o'clock Eastern time. So you do have, those 3 fights to look forward to on Friday night. And I, just pretty much like told you the complete schedule there, like I said, starting at 5 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN Plus there. And yeah, I'm going to try to, be there for the duration of that fight card, start to finish, and then, be there around for the post-fight. And then, I don't know, probably head back home, right soon, not that long after the fights are done and the post fight and everything like that. You know what I mean? Depending on the conditions out there in New York City, it might not be much for me to try to stay there for that Friday night, going into Saturday morning or something like that. So that's how they got there for, or what's working there for February 14th. They're on that front, and we know that they're supposed to be on February 15th the bout over in Manchester with Jack Catterall going up against Arnold Barboza Jr. for the WBO interim super lightweight title. So you got like another key fight there at the 140-pound division that's coming up there. And for Arnold Barboza Jr., I mean, he's kind of been knocking at the door to try to go for a world title shot. And here, if you go up here against Jack Catterall and get this win, shoot, there shouldn't be anything else but for him to, fight for the world title. But I think with this situation, the winner of this fight likely can end up being the WBO champion. I know that, you got Teofimo Lopez as a super champion, but his mandatory is about to be due. And unless if he has about, I guess, some folks talk about him fight Richard Hitchens. If not, WBO might make that phone call and be like, hey, you're going to have to defend that WBO title against the winner of this fight. And if you don't do that, hey, we going to have to take that belt from you. You know what I mean? So I feel like that this bout here between not Dennis Berinchyk there, but Jack Catterall and Arnold Barboza, like it's going to be a key fight there for both fighters. Jack Catterall, has built his way, back up since that close loss in the first fight he had against Josh Taylor, which I still say that he won that fight. I still say he won that fight back in 2022. But he's, won a string of fights, including the rematch against Josh Taylor, and had a win over Regis Prograis last year to put him right in this particular position to fight for the interim title there for the WBO at 140 pounds. And for Arnold Barboza Jr., like I said, 31-0. He's had, the recent win over Jose Carlos Ramirez, former unified champion there at 140 pounds. He's had a win over Jose Pedraza. It's just about everybody has had a win over. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But he's been building himself up with these wins, been pretty solid there. 31-0 with 11 wins by way of knockout, but he's going to have a good scrap here against Jack Catterall, particularly with it being over in Manchester. You're going to have a raucous crowd there in support of Jack Catterall there for the 15th. You know what I mean? So definitely want to look ahead towards that. And also, you have a few other fights that'll be part of that card as well. And then the following weekend, we got February 22nd, Riyadh season. The fights that are on there for Riyadh season, headlined by the rematch between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. But I think some people may be looking forward to the heavyweight title bout between Daniel Dynamite Dubois and Joseph Parker there. That, for some, that should be the headlining bout, but nope, it's the co-feature bout, and well, that's what we have there in store. So I mean, that's the thing about it. It says shout out to OGs here in the building. He says the 9th round stoppage for Keyshawn, and he will be the new WBO champion. Let me see here, man. Wanted to see if I could try to open up. I was going to do this here temporarily. Let me see here. If we could open up the phone lines here in just a second. But hey, you got in the 9th round. Ooh, for me, I think it might be even shorter than that. I really do. I think that, right now that Keyshawn is really coming to his own as a fighter. I think that, he's really kind of like put a number of his punches together. He's putting his offense together. Then free flowing with his offense. He could box. He could fight. I said this many times after July over in his fight. After his fight in Newark in July, and I told it to him. That fight against Miguel Madueno showed that he has that element of what. Not only can I box, not only do I have the speed, power, but I could fight. If you want to wrestle, we could wrestle. You want to get it going, we can get it going. So with that being said, I think there's, I feel like, with Berinchyk, him not really having much pop behind his punch, at least from what I've seen, and the movement. I don't think the movement is going to be too much of a hassle there for Keyshawn Davis, that he'll be able to catch up to it and be able to overwhelm, Berinchyk here within those first few rounds, and then eventually break him down. I mean, you got Dennis Berinchyk there. What is he at? Like, he's there at 36 years old. Like I was mentioned before, he only had that one fight against Emmanuel Navarrete last year. Compare that to Keyshawn Davis having those 3 fights that he had last year against Pedraza, against Madueno, against Gustavo Lemos, and he was able to handle business there. So I think that Keyshawn Davis's speed and his other intangibles there will be too much for for Dennis Berinchyk and overwhelm him. You know what I mean? But yeah, currently right now, for a few minutes, I got the phone line open there. You can call in at 571-449-7217. Once again, 571-449-7217. And you'll be able to chop it up here with the boxing source here for a little bit here. Like I said, just having this thing here after the Super Bowl and whatnot. Shout out to Secret Dance Move in the building here. You know what I mean? Like I was talking about, Derek Chisora being able to score a win over Otto Wallin, man. I just felt like, the thing with Derek Chisora was, if it was similar to his bout against Joe Joyce, then yeah, he was still going to have a shot. But I thought here with Otto Wallin that he would have been able to have something to keep Chisora off of him. But we seen there early in that bout, nope, did not have it. Secret Dance Move here in the chat says Chisora was amazing. Limited talent, but made the most of it, unlike people with lots of talent but don't test themselves. Yeah, he's, as some would say, the fighter's fighter. That that if he's there, he's going to fight. I've talked about it with all the fights that he's had, here so far in 49 professional bouts, multiple fights with Tyson Fury. So, multiple fights there with Dylan White, multiple fights with Kubrat Pulev, multiple fights with Joseph Parker. Man, I don't know what it is, man. It looks like he'll get like a little like allergies or something around here for this drink. But yeah, so there's that. And that kind of like says, hey, you've only seen him, like I said, he only had that knockout loss to Dylan White. You seen what happened in his last bout against Tyson Fury. So, even though he has 13 losses, 4 of those 13 losses were by knockout or stoppage. So, regardless of what happens, that you're going to be in for a fight there with Derek Chisora. You know what I mean? G says, Chisora is such a warrior, a definition of taking a few good shots just so we can deliver his. Yeah, that's exactly Chisora's MO. It's his MO. He's willing to just go in there, and he'll he'll wing it. He'll wing it as far as like he doesn't necessarily have any type of a technical skill to try to work the jab and try to work the jab to follow up with something or anything like that. He'll just get in there, woof, and just use his frame to wear down his opponent. And that's what he does. And here against Otto Wallin, he just overwhelmed Otto Wallin early. You know what I mean? So being only stopped by David Haye, Tyson Fury, and Dylan White. Yep, and lost to top 10 guys. That's it. And the thing about it is like like I was saying, he's a fighter's fighter. Those are guys that I guess as they say, boxing purists love because he's there to basically have a fight, as far as like, the cold gladiator type thing or whatever it is, that is, what, Derek Chisora is basically is somebody that, is there to show up and there to fight. It's not going to be anything technical. There's no strategic type of things going on there with Derek Chisora in a certain extent. You're going to be in there for a fight. And that's Derek Chisora right there. So, like I was mentioning earlier, with him having to win over Otto Wallin, now what could be next for Derek Chisora? He did mention there in the post-fight press conference that, even though we had the intention of having his 50th pro fight over in Africa, he said, given the conditions that are going on in a lot of countries there in Africa, that he, ended up declining going forward with the 50th fight there in Africa. So he will have his next fight over in the UK. It just depends on, who it would be against. Kind of like brought up the situations there when they had the, I guess, the cards or the posters out there with 3 fighters: Alexander Usyk, Anthony Joshua, and Daniel Dubois. And I just mentioned that, Alexander Usyk said that, he's likely going to have one fight here in 2025, and that could be against the winner of Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker. And so that eliminates Usyk. That could eliminate Daniel Dubois. And then there was the only one out there with Anthony Joshua, which, did get a, rousing reaction from the crowd there in Manchester. But the thing with Anthony Joshua is, I think if there's like any fights that Anthony Joshua would return for this year, it's either Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder. And that's it. So with that being said, my suggestion is a third fight with Dylan White, pending what Dylan White does here in the next few weeks, as they say that they're working on a fight between Dylan White and Joe Joyce. So if that fight does take place, then, well, I don't know who else would be out there for Derek Chisora to go ahead and fight. So there's that. But that was my kind of like analysis there for Derek Chisora in that particular sense there, with him getting that win over Otto Wallin. Now, just going back to the fight card they had here with Keyshawn Davis and Dennis Berinchyk. We got just here. We got Keyshawn Davis here with that opportunity to win the WBO lightweight title. And with that being said, I highly favor him to win. I highly favor him to get that lightweight title. It's just what's going to be next for Keyshawn Davis after that. Shout out to KQKC Boxing Network in the building. What's going on with you? This is kind of like one of those late lives here for the Boxing Source podcast. Usually have it at around 7:30 p.m. Eastern time Sundays, but given what it is today, I say, you know what? Let me just wait it out and have that thing going on. Okay. Looks like hopefully I might try to set up an interview for tomorrow. We'll see how that goes here. But yeah, that fight that's coming up on the 14th at the theater at Madison Square Garden. maybe a potential coming out party there for Keyshawn Davis. Like I said, he's very excited. Even though he had that bout over at the Scope Arena in Norfolk, last November, he felt like he won the world title then with his performance against Gustavo Lemos there with that second round stoppage. But he still, has this right in front of him to go ahead and take care of business as the businessman there against Dennis Berinchyk to win the WBO lightweight title. What OG says here on the live chat, so hope not, but I think Wilder and AJ would be a battle of broken fighters. Hey man, they've had, a couple of instances where, either fighters that have fought each other before, but then had a rematch, many years later, or, two guys that, maybe were around the same weight class, but never quite faced each other and ended up facing each other later on down the line. We ended up having that. Like, for example, last year, we had Jarrett Hurd versus Jason Rosario. That was on ProBox TV last August. That was at the end of August of last year. So, I mean, maybe we'll have something like that with Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. I mean, first we have to see what happens with Deontay Wilder, as they have something, I guess, slated for April on BLK Prime with Deontay Wilder, but he's going up against Curtis Harper, supposedly, and I'm like, oh goodness, man, like Curtis Harper, yeah, that Curtis Harper that walked out the ring there and is about what against Efe Ajagba, right? So I mean, that was something. So yeah, that's mainly what we have here. That's on slate. Like I said, for the week, Keyshawn Davis, they're going for the WBO lightweight title against Dennis Berinchyk. You have that bout there at 140 pounds for the WBO interim title. There as Jack Catterall and Arnold Barbosa Jr. Face each other in Manchester on the 15th. And I know that someone kind of like mentioned something in reference to the event that's supposed to be on BLK Prime on the 15th. Man, I hope that's still on, because I'm putting down my $4.99 to watch Greg Hackett versus Brian Norman Sr. So I'm hoping that they didn't have that bout rescheduled or anything like that. I haven't seen anything reference to that yet. So hopefully I get something about that. But like I said, I talked with Mr. GHB Greg Hackett, a couple weeks ago, and I don't know, hopefully here within maybe tomorrow or something, I don't know. Maybe I could get something with Brian Norman Sr. if that fight still in place for the 15th there outside of Atlanta. So definitely want to go ahead and catch up with that. But, that's, mainly there what's on slate here for this coming week. Yeah. And, man, it's still on, yeah. But, shout out to Mr. GHB. Yeah, he probably, was on live or whatever it is. And he said, he said, watch out for the juice man, Keyshawn Davis. Yeah, he has the most potential of all the homies, out there, what I'm saying, out in Norfolk. Yeah, man, I had a conversation, interview with him, before I headed out there to Vegas. And, he was out there, doing the workout himself there too. So, he's definitely going to do his thing here on February 14th at the theater in Madison Square Garden. That's going to be his second professional fight there. So also got to watch out for him as well. And then, if I'm not mistaken, Kelvin Davis said that he will have his next bout scheduled for March 8th. So I'll see if I can follow up with Kelvin Davis and see if we have more information on his bout that's, I guess, it's slated for March 8th there, I guess, for a top ranked card. So we have that going on, right? Okay, cool. So yeah, that's what I got here, so far on this particular podcast. We had a number of interviews from the past week. You had, the kid Vasquez on. We've had we had Elijah Pierce on here, for a little bit. You know what I mean? So we've had a number of conversations here over the past week plus, and still got more to go. You know what I mean? I got like another one hopefully planned for tomorrow. Hopefully planned for tomorrow. And you'll get in contact with a few joints there. Yeah, you're gonna have a number of those fighters on that top ranked card February 14th. That'll be featured. The one that I will be interested in is Jared Anderson, as that will be his first fight since his loss that he had in August of last year, where he got stopped there, man, by oh my God. I mean, that was just a bad, bad break for him. Bad break for him there against Martin Bacoli. There was just nothing really that Jared Anderson could do there against Bacoli on that day. So we'll see how he does here in this bout, but he is highly favored in that bout that he has here, to say the least. Because when I was looking at the odds, they had him at like minus 1,600 against Marios Colias. So hey, looks like that one is where they say, hey, we're just gonna get you back in the win column, and then after that, we'll see what goes on from there. So that's what looking forward to. Like I said, the press conference is coming up on Wednesday afternoon. Should be out there for that. And then for the weigh-in on Thursday, and then the fight's on Friday. So that's going to be pretty much the week ahead for the Boxing Source here, at least for the time being. But for other news and notes, they're just, stick with the Boxing Source, whether it is through here on YouTube or through the website, theboxingsource.net. That particular website has been recently updated, has like a new layout. There are a few things here that, I'm still working on as far as like that is concerned, but be sure to check that out. And there's still going to be a lot of other things that are going to be coming up here. I've kind of hinted it on social media. April 12th is going to be really, really busy. Not only will you have that bout at Atlantic City with Joanne Moose Ennis versus Ian Manasanionis for the IBF and WBA welterweight titles, but there is plans to have a pro box card in Washington, D.C., featuring a number of fighters from the D.C. area that may have, signed some deals with pro box there. So be on the lookout for that and things like that. Real quick here before we roll. Says OG's here in the chat says, how do you think Bacoli matches up with the A class heavyweights? Okay. Ooh, all right. So of course you got Alexander Usyk at the top of the top. You got Daniel Dubois there. You got Tyson Fury. You could still say Tyson Fury may be considered as a guy. We only had that lone loss to Michael Hunter, where he had like a situation there during the fight, so it ended up him being stopped, but he was getting tagged by a number of those shots and still wouldn't go down. So hey, he'd be a tough out for anybody. Now, I wanted him to fight was Zhilei Zhang. I wanted him to have that fight with Zhilei Zhang. If it was Zhilei Zhang versus Martin Bacoli on February 22nd, that would have been like, that would have been must-see TV right there, right? But we didn't necessarily get that. You know what I mean? So with that being said, now we're going to have him going up against Efe Ajagba. That's planned for May over in New York City, part of another Riyadh season card. But against Usyk will be able to, just outbox him, outmaneuver him, and get a win. Daniel Dubois, given his confidence, given that he's at 27, he'd be able to, Daniel Dubois might be able to get the win there because Bacoli would be too slow. Okay. Cabello would be interesting because Cabello, he's had one of the more impressive runs there in the heavyweight division, with his past couple of fights, having the stoppage wins over Makhmudov and Frank Sanchez. Now here he is up against Zhilei Zhang. Now, if he wins this bout against Zhilei Zhang, he'll be the WBC interim heavyweight champion, and he'll like try to angle for a fight with Alexander Usyk later this year. Will it happen? Doubt it. Don't think it'll happen. But that fight, if they try to revisit it, that could be something right there, because I think that, Agit Kabel is a very cagey fighter, doesn't really care about, if you're a taller guy or anything like that, particularly with someone like a Martin Bakole. If he's like a little bit slow, Agit Kabel will be able to take advantage of that. So I think that Kabel, I would actually favor Kabel in that matchup. You know what I mean? Secret Dance Move says that Bakole gets smashed by the elites of the division. It says that he's a lot older than what's currently listed as his age. Oh my God. Oh man. So they got Martin Bakole listed at 33 years old. I don't know about that. You know what I mean? Easy to hit, Yeah, if Jared had any ring IQ, he'd have done better. I think, And Bakole, he priced himself out of that Cabello fight. He certainly did. So, after, what happens here for Bakole against Efe Ajagba, then, maybe we get him against, it might be the loser of the February 22nd bout between Daniel Dubois and Joseph Parker. It might be that. I feel like he'll face one of those four guys that are involved in that February 22nd card after he has his bout against Efe Ajagba, because, Efe Ajagba, even with Bart Bakole not being able to move very well, I still actually would favor Bakole over Efe Ajagba. It's just being honest. But that's pretty much my analysis there for Bart Bakole and his standing currently here in the heavyweight division. So that's gonna be that. I don't know. Maybe I might consider adding in my own ratings there for the divisions, but listen, I don't necessarily keep up with all 15 weight classes, because you ain't seeing me talking about no minimum weight fighters. I'm not doing that. Sorry, I'm not. I'm being honest with you. Yes, I'm a media member, but I am not keeping up with guys that are under 112 pounds. I'm sorry. I'm just not doing it, especially when I can't hardly pronounce many of those names of the fighters that are on 108 or 105 or whatever it is down there. No, I can't do it. So, but outside of that, maybe I'll add a couple of things there for the page as well. So I'll see there. But check out the boxingsource.net. It says just do ratings from featherweight upwards. Hey, I mean, I could do 115 and 118, 122. I mean, I got a couple guys out there. Bam Rodriguez. You got Junto Nakatani that's doing all that, and that's I could probably get down to that particular level, but lower than that, nope, can't do it. As my guy said, can't do it. Cannot play with him. Cannot coach with him. Can't do it. I want winners. Nah. All right. Here's an interesting question here. I just extended this show here for a little bit. Thoughts on Bruce Carrington? When is he ready to move up on competition? Well, he was, in attendance there in Las Vegas last week there to check out what was going on between Brandon Figueroa and Stephen Fulton for the WBC featherweight title. And yes, Stephen Fulton was able to get that win to become the WBC featherweight champion. And they currently have Bruce Carrington ranked at number 1 in the WBC. Right now, they have him listed to fight Enrique Vivas at the Fontainebleau, Las Vegas. Yeah, March 29th. Part of that card for the rematch between Michaela Mayer and Sandy Ryan. After that fight that he had against Suleiman Sagawa, I think Top Rank might be like slowing down on him because I mean we got Top Rank. I mean Top Rank has multiple guys that have world titles there. They were able to put Angelo Leo in position to win the IBF title with that knockout win that he had against Luis Alberto Lopez, right? So you still have a couple of guys that he could potentially face. I mean, he's not only number one in the WBC, but he's number one in the WBO with Rafael Espinoza as the WBO champion. So my thing is, how come you can't have Bruce Carrington fighting Rafael Espinoza for that WBO title? How come they haven't really angled for that fight to happen? It's interesting. And yeah, he did say that he wants to, go ahead and fight a Stephen Fulton, but is, Top Rank. I mean, he did have that one off that was part of that fight card in AT&T Stadium last year, but are they willing to have him go out for a fight between him and Stephen Fulton later this year? Who knows? But we'll have to see first what Bruce Carrington does in his bout against Enrique Vivas on March 29th. And then after that, then we'll see how things go because I think after that bout against Suleiman Sagawa, it looked like it kind of pumped the brakes a little bit because we had the knockout win against Brian Agracia there at the Madison Square Garden Theater, and we had like a little bit of momentum in those fights, and then having a fight against Sagawa where it was really, really close, and some people felt like Sagawa should have gotten shouldn't have gotten a nod in that one, but it didn't happen. So now with Carrington, he had the bout against Dana Coolwell, and that one was like an 8-round bout. So you're going from scheduled for 10 rounds in your 1, 2, 3, 4 fights, and then going back to 8-round scheduled bout against Dana Coolwell there at near the end of 2024. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here with Bruce Carrington, particularly after this bout against Enrique Vivas, if he's going to have that opportunity to fight for it, at the very least, the WBC featherweight title against Stephen Fulton, especially when, we had on the midweek report Elijah Pierce, who really, 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 really wants that Stephen Fulton fight. And it says, like, if it comes down to it, he would fight Bruce Carrington. But, though they say those guys are buddies, he's kind of mentioned that multiple times over. So he doesn't really want to go ahead and have that fight. But if need be, he'd rather have it in an instance where it could be a unification. Shout out to Legacy to Find in the building here, catching us late here on the live chat. But yeah, that's what I had in reference to Bruce Carrington there. But like I said, I've got a fairly busy week coming up here for the Boxing Source. May have something scheduled tomorrow on the channel, so we'll see how that goes. Outside of that, you have the bouts coming up in New York City, and the bout there in the super lightweight division over in Manchester, England, and we'll see what happens here for that BLK Prime, Mr. GHB Greg Hackett versus Brian Norman Sr. So definitely want to go ahead and support my guy there, Mr. GHB, on that on Saturday too. So that's what I got there. I mean, what we did, we had about a little bit over an hour here for this particular podcast, and I'm gonna just wind it down on that as it's getting close to about midnight Eastern time here. But we're gonna have this available, of course, in audio form through Spotify and other podcast platforms as well for that one and that. So That's why I got here. And before I roll out, I'm going with my guy, Mr. GHB. I'm going with my guy, Mr. GHB, on Saturday night. And that is it. I will catch y'all later. Thanks for listening in. Peace out.